Hello, how are you doing? This is Gordon Linzner and Hildy Silverman and me over here for the first spec fair, and which is far in the future for us. So if we don't seem to know what we're talking about with spec fair, that's because none of us really know right now because we're still doing it. But theoretically, in September 8th, we will all be talking about the history of space and time with founder Gordon Linzner, Hildy Silverman, the one who kept it going, and then me, who kind of tagged in at the end and did crazy stuff. So, welcome, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on here with me.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for inviting us. Yes.
Well, for everybody who doesn't know, which I don't know who that would be if they're here now, because you would know, but Gordon Linzner started the magazine Space and Time back in 1966, back in the wild and crazy 60s, on a mimeograph machine. And some of you, I have found out, probably don't know what a mimeograph machine is, so shame on you. You're going to be educated. So, Gordon, you want to just tell us a little bit about how high school Gordon Linzner decided to create a magazine? Because I think in high school, I was thinking about how to get booze and drugs or something, or, something. I'm not even going to go on with what I was probably thinking about trying to get, but not a magazine. That's super impressive.
Well, I was a born nerd, so it's going to happen. And I had a couple other nerds helping me. Now, originally what we were planning to do is do a comic strip magazine. And then I purchased a mimeograph for like $20. And it would soon turned out that it's very hard to do a comic book on a mimeograph. You have to carve the artwork into the stencil itself. So I decided, well, we're just working that out just so we do something. I can type on it. So I pulled up, did a couple stories, got my friends do a couple stories, and we had like one or two sketchy, very simple illustrations to put out the first issue in mimeograph. It was about 20 pages maybe. And that was so much fun that a few months later we did number 2, also mimeograph, about twice the size. But by number 3, I discovered photo offset. So number 3 was half mimeo, half photo offset, and I just forget the mimeograph altogether. And again, for the first few issues, it was mostly me and some high school friends. And then somehow I started hearing from people all over the world. Dal Schweitzer shows up out of nowhere, that kind of thing. And by the 5th, 6th, 7th issue, I'm getting submissions from out of New York, out of town, out of the country. And so by number 10, I'm publishing a real magazine. I don't have to put my story in every issue anymore because I have enough material for everybody else. We went through a few changes. Originally, it was print out 2 pages at once, fold it, staple it in the middle, kind of thing. Actually, originally it was like just staple on the side. It's like loose pages. And then at some point, actually, I kept doing that for quite a long time. And at some point, I think maybe about 25 or 30 years in, that was my first feeling that, I should probably retire. It's getting to be a bit much. And I was approached by somebody who I'm not going to mention, he's passed on now. And he said, well, you want to keep doing it? Said, I don't know. Well, if we're going to keep doing it, then I want to change the format a little. And that's when I get to the, like a regular book shape. And we did that for a while, but then we disagreed on content. And he said, no, he wanted to do more and more stuff that he wanted to do. I said, well, why am I keeping as editor? Why don't you just take over the magazine? No, it's your magazine. All right. So we split, and I kept going because, I was back in the groove again. I can't stop now. And then around the 40th anniversary, it was like, okay, it's a nice round number. If I have to give it up, I give it up now. The only problem is I've got like about 5 issues worth of material. The last issue is going to be gigantic. And then I ran into Hildy at the Malibu lunch with a group of various editors and writers in the genre. And connected once or twice, and then she heard I was giving it up, and for some reason, maybe she was being sadistic or masochistic, she decided, oh, I'll take it on. And next thing you know, I was giving her cartons and cartons of the back issues, which she probably still can't get rid of.
Oh no, I think she got rid of most of them.
Yeah, I guess she has them now.
Yeah.
Anybody need back issues?
Anyway, that's the condensed version. I don't want to, you only have like 45 minutes, so I can't give you everything here.
Well, how, from your point of view, what made you decide to take on this magazine, Hildy? Like, were you sadistic and masochistic? Because I have wondered about myself. I'm asking you for me, asking for a friend.
Asking for a friend. I think maybe a little masochistic. No, I enjoyed the magazine. I was a reader, right? I enjoyed it. I was a fan. And when Gordon mentioned it, he was going to have to shut it down, I felt bad because it was something I had enjoyed. In fact, I recall seeing Gordon at a convention talking about it. And that's when I started reading it because he gave out some free copies. I was like, wow, that's really good. So I don't know. It was a little bit spur of the moment. I have to admit, it was a little bit, like, let's jump at it. But yeah, I said, what if I wanted to run it? Because he was going to shut it down. And I said, well, what if I took it? And he said, well, what if you did? The rest is history. I took it over. And it was a heck of an adventure. It was a great learning experience. Publishing. I had not actually published before, certainly not a magazine, certainly not one that was being distributed at the time nationally and internationally. But Gordon was a great teacher. He told me everything I needed to know, and I picked some things up on my own. I fortunately inherited the team that Gordon had built, who are all fabulous. Linda Addison as the poetry editor, Gerard Horner as, fiction editor, a bunch of great first readers and associate editors. So they were all a tremendous help. No way I could have done it alone without them. No chance. So hats off to every single one of them. But yeah, it was definitely a labor of love. It was challenging at times. Of course, I'm preaching to the choir here, as anything is. But it was also really exciting to put your name on that masthead and see the great writers that we got to publish, discovering some new ones or boosting the careers of people starting out. Publishing some folks who had been around for a long time, but maybe hadn't published for a while, or had something to publish that other venues weren't interested in. So it was it was a tremendous learning experience. And I think I did 12 years, but I'm very glad I was able to do it. It was a real joy, real highlight in my life.
That's awesome.
So I must say
oh, go ahead.
The really cool thing about Space and Time is how much I learned just by doing it. I mean, the first couple of issues I had my high school friends with me, and then high school was over and it kind of like faded off, and I was doing it on my own for about 10 years before I put together the crew that Hildy inherited. But I learned not only how to edit, but how to write better as well, because I could see reading other people's work, say, oh, I'm making that same mistake. I'm going to stop doing that now. So it's a really fantastic experience. Anybody who wants to publish a magazine, if you do it right, you can learn a lot that's going to help you with many other ways.
Absolutely true. I totally agree with that. I'm certain my own writing has improved because of the experience of editing others.
Yeah. And my appreciation for Shun format, because I actually didn't really use Shun format. I did not realize the importance of Shun until I actually started receiving documents not in Shun. And yes, no more. Do not use Shun. I want to ask both of you collectively. This is a little bit of a leading question, because I could say, did you have a challenging moment? Ha 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 ha. Yes, many. But what are some of the challenges from each of you, like the biggest challenges to doing it? I mean, besides just being terrified, that was my biggest challenge of what the heck am I doing?
What would you say, Gordon?
So many, it's hard to make a list, but they were all like things that came up and I dealt with them each time. So when I got to the point where my manuscripts were like, I can't keep up with the manuscripts, I need somebody to like sort them out. Then I managed to put a crew from, luckily I was in a writing group. That was, we'll do that. That'd be fun. But, uh, so I guess the challenge at some point it was trying to publish it regularly. When I first started it, after the first couple of mimeographs, I was able to put an issue out every other month. After a few years of that, I was put out thicker issues, but like every quarter. And towards the end, it was lucky if I did 2 or 3 a year. But I tried to keep to a schedule. And I suppose distribution is probably one of the biggest challenges here, especially now. Back then, I could mail off a magazine for like, 15 cents. Now, of course, send an issue now? $2, $2.50?
I think like $2.98.
Yeah.
Yeah, even at book rate.
Yeah. Yeah, which I've had an argument ongoing with the post office that magazines don't count as book rate because they have advertisements in them. And so then my question is, what about the books that have advertisements in them? But we've gone around and around and nobody's winning anything. So
I ran into I had that same discussion. Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't tell them it was a magazine.
I'm not going to say I've done that, but yeah, that's a good idea because nobody knows what's in those boxes.
I would say what I ran into, so I shifted us back to quarterly because I believe that was a good cadence, but I ran into very similar issues. The prices for print kept going up and up. The price for shipping kept going up and up. And unfortunately, it became almost, there was no way to stay solvent in my situation. I could not bring in enough unless I raised the price so high that no one would buy it, which is the other side of the coin. I just didn't have enough of a permanent subscriber base to do that and to keep it in the bookstores, which was the other thing. We had these deals with Barnes and Noble, Borders when it existed, and Indigo Books up in Canada. And actually now they're here. A couple of the Indigo Books are down here, which were great. But with the returns policy and everything and the cost of shipping these cartons and cartons to these big booksellers, it just became more and more prohibitive. So I had to keep shaving things off. Okay, we'll go to 3 issues a year. We'll, back out of the bookstores. I can't ship internationally. It was that we were constantly going back and back and back to the point where, it just wasn't something I could keep going. Also, due to some personal circumstances, financially, it just was not something I could keep going anymore, which was a disappointment. But it was the right move at the time to say, I basically reached the same point Gordon did, of I either have to shut this down or hopefully find someone to take it. And good news is it was the latter.
Which was that moment of, am I a sadist or a masochist or what? Wait, why am I doing this? But in a way, we've continued the shaving, like from you, because we find, like when we took it, it's expensive. It's very expensive. I don't know if people realize how much goes into that little magazine cost-wise, but it's thousands of dollars after you've paid everybody. And then we made the switch after the pandemic, which that spring issue almost put us under. The spring and the summer issue, so many issues got lost that we were trying to replace that about did us in. And that's when we went to print on demand, which kind of alleviated a lot of that. But now it's not a traditional magazine anymore, I guess, but at least we can keep going. So
yeah, that print on demand was something I was going to be aiming for. At the time, it wasn't quite ready and available to magazines, but that would have changed the equation quite a bit.
Yeah, otherwise, I don't think that we could keep doing it. And I know a lot of magazines have just gone online, which I really think that paper, tactile, even though I pretty much read everything digitally, I, still some things like a magazine, needs to be paper.
Yeah, Gordon, I'm sure they were the same with you. We had such a subscription a group of subscribers that's what they wanted. They wanted hard copy.
Yeah.
Which is why print on demand would have been perfect to satisfy them, and then once otherwise, it's tricky. And there is something about having that, especially for the contributors, to get that copy in your hand with your name on it. You can show people. Yeah.
You can sit at your panel at the convention and hold it up.
Yeah.
Here's
Smell
my yeah. So
Yeah, back when I retired from it, print on demand wasn't quite up to the level where I could deal with that. So it hadn't even occurred to me. What is amazing to me that each time we've had to transition, you just showed up, Hildy. And then when we were ready to go, Angela just showed up.
Yep.
So whoever's out there.
I wasn't even looking.
Yeah.
Well, I think for me it was just like 55 years or something at that point?
It's going to be 55 years, and I know this because Gordon started the year I was born.
Oh.
I'm about to turn 55, so
that is a good
that's how I keep track.
Yeah, I knew it was over 50, and that was just my thing. Is like, I don't want to do this because it's a lot of work. I know how much work it is, and I think at the time I had just quit everything to be a full-time writer. So I was like, yay, I can just immerse myself for hours in my writing, which I haven't really written a lot, I will say, the last 3 years or 2 years or however long it's been. But yeah, it was just the history that, how do you let that go? So I'm betting that there's a fourth space and time publisher out there, possibly watching right now, that will be there, ready.
Ready to take it on whenever you're done. Yeah.
But
well, Hildy and I celebrated the 50th anniversary in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm trying to find the video of that because a couple years ago that video existed and now I can't find it anywhere.
Well, I think I might actually have a copy somewhere from Jim. Yeah, Jim Fromm.
Yeah.
I should still have a copy. If I don't, Jim must have.
Yeah,
I'm going to see if I can get a copy because I would like to. That was such a historic thing because we had Jack Ketchum there. I should say you guys had Jack Ketchum there, and Linda was there, and I think Alan Baxter, and I can't remember, but it was just like a who's who of everybody.
A couple of our artists.
Yeah, that was a great evening. That was really something to get to 50 and celebrate all together like that. That was really great. Yeah.
I can't wait for the 75th anniversary now.
How about highlights? Like, there's been many highlights, I'm sure. I can think of like Jack Ketchum. He has 1 or 2 stories in there. Just different things like that. That Isaac Asimov, I've been actually dying to ask you about this. That Isaac Asimov interview from like early on, Gordon, one of the first issues. There's an Isaac Asimov issue that starts out with, there's this guy named Isaac Asimov that seems like he might go somewhere, which I thought might be sarcasm, but I wasn't sure where Isaac Asimov was back then. So like just like things like that. What are some of the highlights that you guys remember? My highlight is meeting Gordon Linzner and Hildy Silverman a year or so ago.
Aww.
We were hoping to do it again at Econ this year, but
next
we would
year,
love to have
sure.
seen you there. Yeah,
I know.
Oh well.
Yeah, it's still gonna happen. This will end, so maybe by the time this airs, that would be awesome.
That would be.
Crossing fingers.
I think maybe it's just like when a big name suddenly shows up in my mailbox, like suddenly Andrew Offutt is sending me something. Beth Massey, although I wound up not publishing a story in the magazine because I also started a book line then. I was really ambitious. Book line lasted for about 10 years or so and then just petered off, although the Faith Justice has taken it over. She can still issue under that name. But I had my wife helping me and she put together an anthology. We just took best stories out of what we were going to publish in the magazine and put them in the collection called Bring Down the Moon, which means that those stories are now more available in the actual other magazines than if we had actually published it. But I still kind of regret not publishing Beth Massey in one of my issues. But maybe we can still get her to send you a story. Could try that.
She's pretty great.
Worst comes to worst, you could reprint the story from the anthology.
I'm actually taking notes here. So.
Should say when I was saying I was going nuts, I really went nuts. I also published a small magazine of cartoons called Edgar, which was what the mimeograph was going to be like.
Yep.
I helped somebody publish a magazine called Sword, but then they screwed up and never got their second issue. As I was getting more fiction, I moved some of the nonfiction to another magazine, which I would call Now to Deal with You, which just published reviews. That also only lasted 6 issues because,
And which is longer actually than most magazines last in their lifetime, honestly. I mean, 6 issues is still good and impressive.
Yeah.
I think eventually I settled down and just picked out, I'll just concentrate on this one magazine.
One's enough at a time. I think I would agree with Gordon on the thrill of getting someone, a big name, just kind of appearing. A couple that come to mind during my run: Frederick Pohl, Harry Turtledove, Norman Spinrad. These names from the greats in childhood, and sending a story to my little magazine. I was like, wow, okay, thank you. And then seeing some other authors, that were early on in their careers, just take off later on. I remember we published Nnedi Okorafor way back, I think right at the beginning of her career. And there's other Nikki Drayden, who actually, as you know, got read by LeVar Burton, her story in Space and Time. I remember getting that story. Yes.
That's so awesome.
Yeah. So there's, that's always was a thrill, just getting not even just big names or people who went on to bigger things, but some stories were just so good.
Yeah.
And you read it and you're like, wow, I get to bring this to the public. Someone gets to read this. I'm going to make this available. That was always an exciting moment. Yeah.
I always felt like, wait, I'm only paying like a penny a word. Why are you sending this to me? When Asimov was paying 6, 7, 8 cents.
Yeah. Well, there's like questions. I should just start keeping a list because you're talking. I'm like, oh, and I wanted to ask about that. How about, have you, bringing up stories and stuff, either of you, read a story that you actually, just started crying, or, you were so overcome because this was so freaking amazing. It's partly that this is so amazing and I can't believe it's here. And it's not mine, but, mine. But mine to share with everybody. And just the beauty of, the emotional of it. Have you guys had those moments of just oh my God? You can admit that if you cried, Gordon, it's okay. We won't judge you.
Again, if you had sent me a list of everything I published, I could look through it and point things out. But I'm trying to remember 40 years, 100 issues. I think that was my point. I went, okay, I've reached issue number 100. That should be it. That's a nice ending right there. And then Hildy said, no, I can do 101.
No, we can keep going.
And she didn't even have to go look for new stories because we already had 3 issues worth in the backlog.
That was helpful. That was very helpful at the start to know the stories were already in. Yeah. It's so hard to remember now for me either. I know there were plenty of stories where I was like, wow, this is fantastic. Or poems, because we were publishing the poetry.
Yeah.
That were just, really super good. And I know I submitted several over the years to the WISFA Small Press Award because they were just so great. And a couple got nominated, were finalists. And we won some, the poetry award, the big one that's awarded at, oh goodness, this is how bad my memory is. I forgot the name of that there's a big poetry award every year, but I know we won it a couple of times. I'm
missing the urge to go to Google. What is the big poetry award?
It's award. I want to say it's awarded at Boscombe, maybe. Dang it, I can't remember. And I'll remember after we're done. So,
Yeah.
Sorry, public. I'm old and I forget things.
Well, that's what Google's for.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can email us later.
Yeah.
It'll probably be at midnight when I remember it.
Yeah. That's so funny. What have you guys been doing? Because you're somewhat off the hook now. Obviously, you're not completely off the hook because you're here right now. But how have you guys spent, like, enjoying this freedom? Or has there been freedom? God, please tell me there's freedom.
I get to take credit for you guys. Oh, look, it's the founder of the magazine that these two people are putting out amazing copies of.
Without you and the magic mimeograph machine, though, Hildy and I would not be sitting here.
No, I never would have just created a magazine of my own. It's the Riesling Award, by the way.
Oh, yes.
I couldn't remember. So I didn't have to wait till midnight. Now I feel better.
And that file in the back of the brain, I know that feeling.
I mean, for me, a lot of it was having the time to return to focus on my own writing. Because as you mentioned, Angela, and I know, Gordon, this was something you told me when you were giving up the magazine. It's very hard to keep up with your own writing and edit and publish and produce a magazine. And it is nice to now not have to divide my already limited time between both, because certainly it was my writing that took the back seat. It kind of had to,
Yeah.
how much work had to be done. So that's been the biggest thing for me, is just really shifting my sights back on my own work.
I have to say pretty much the same. I was able to focus more on my own writing and other jobs as well, and also earning a living, which the magazine does not provide.
That too, yeah.
Yeah, and I would say I was misled, but no, I knew what I was getting into.
I did warn you. I was honest.
Yeah, no. And I had a little dabbling publishing thing, and it was that was my first one of going, what? Money doesn't pour in? What? So I knew. That's why it was the, can I do this? Do we have enough, resources for this? So, and yes, and then 2020. But still, we're still kicking. But
in 2020, yes.
I just want to bring up, you guys are both being very vague about what you've been doing since then, but I know specifically Gordon has had some stuff published. Hildy, I'm sure that your name is getting out there, and this is your time to say, I'm here, go buy it, find my website.
Well, I'm actually having the website put together over the weekend. That's funny because I have been horribly remiss in putting together an author's website. So I'm actually doing that. I'm even getting an official photo for the first time. That's how bad I am at this. And I've never had a formal one. But yeah, I publish, I would say 3 to 5 stories a year in anthologies. Anthologies seem to be my niche. So science fiction, fantasy, horror, mystery, humor, what have you. The latest story I have out is in a new anthology called Devilish and Divine, which is out from eSpec Books. John French is the editor. And I have another story that's about to come out in another anthology. And then down the line, it's probably got to be about a year before it comes out. I have a novella that's going to come out. My first novella, it's a cryptid one.
Oh, awesome.
Part of the Systema Paradoxa publishing line, where they create cryptid crates. So you get a little book, and you also get different things in the crate, like a little figure of your cryptid.
That is so cool.
It's really cute. Yeah, it's super cute.
Yeah, when you do that, let's do this again and share the crate and all that, because I love those cryptid crates. Those things are awesome.
Thank you. Yes, definitely.
And what would your website be by September 8th by the time this comes out?
Well, it's going to be my name. So at least I had that reserved. I've had that for years. I think it's Hildy Silverman it's either .net or .com. I have to check, but I do have it. So Yeah, it'll be pretty easy.
Okay.
I've been really remiss in doing it.
I see. Because by the time this in September 8th, because it's actually like a month and a half, I don't know, time has no meaning anymore. Right now, I never leave the house. But when this airs on my calendar, when Google tells me this is happening, you'll have all this time. You'll have worked out the bugs. It's going to look perfect. So nobody needs to know that you just did this, except for now that we just talked about it.
That's right. No, it's been around the whole time.
What are you talking about?
Years.
You just haven't been looking in the right place.
That's right.
Yeah, people just don't know how to use the internet. The internets.
Interwebs. Yes.
Yeah. How about you, Gordon? Tell us like where we can find your books.
Okay, I
and
was just
everything
finding.
you've been doing.
Well,
See,
all
and I'm
three of my
having to
novels.
approach you guys to really get this information out of you.
Well, all three of my novels are available from Crossroads. They were all published back in the '80s. One of them is my vampire spy novel, inspired Frank Blood. The Oni and The Troop. So just go to Crossroads Press. They have a lot of great stuff there as well. And I've had each year I seem to be selling more and more stuff, although at least a third of the ones I've sold this year are reprints, which is fine. I can use the extra money. So I'm just going to call this up now for just a couple of things. There's an anthology called Humans Are the Problem, which will be coming out in about a month or so. I've got a story in that. I just sold a reprint to a collection called Alternative War. Oh, I sold 3 Sherlock Holmes stories. And if you told me a year ago that I would be writing Sherlock Holmes stories, let alone selling 3 of them, I would have gone, yeah, right. I'll just, sure. Tell me another one. We've got Keith DeCandido is putting out a collection of 4 something or other at the Apocalypse.
I'm in that one too.
Oh,
Yeah, so
awesome.
we're both in that one. And we can go further back to the Beatles anthology and so on, but I don't want to take up the entire next remaining 20 minutes or so. That's enough to start. I usually, lately, I've been going out of my way when I hear like something is published, I will announce it on my Facebook page, which is public. So although I don't have a web page, you can go to my Facebook page and see whatever I posted, along with stuff that you could care less about. But I'm not one of these people that spends a lot of time on Facebook. So when I do, it's usually for a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's kind of the way to handle Facebook, honestly. If you want to stay sane.
Yeah, it is better that way. I also share on Twitter usually, and I do have an Amazon authors page that I do have, which connects to all my anthologies. So
okay,
yeah.
So we'll search hildysilverman.com or .net, and the Amazon page and Twitter for you. Gordon is Facebook, and then we can find everything through Crossroads Publishing.com.
Some book published. Had some story that was republished within a year recently, which is amazing.
Wow.
It appeared as a little magazine that only pays 1 cent a word, but then I got another 1 cent a word for it. I can't imagine how that possibly happened. Maybe you know something about that.
Maybe.
Check out Worlds of Light and Darkness. She's got some really good space and time stories in there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I filled in some space.
Yeah, they have done, that's Uproar Books. See, now that I'm on the spot, Rick at Uproar Books did just an amazing job with that whole thing. They said, can you send some stories? And I was like, yep, here's a list. And that was pretty much it. And then all of a sudden this gorgeous book kind of appeared. And I was like, do you guys want to do a magazine? Like, let me just approach you here.
Nice.
One of the reasons why I said yes, like the craziness of like saying yes to this project, this amazing magazine that just won't let people go. So it has its own entity probably, is the staff. And you guys have both brought that up. We've got like Linda Addison and Diane Weinstein and Gerard Porter. How did those guys come into this? Because literally, like Hildy said, I couldn't do this at all without these guys and with all the first readers and everything. How did you even come up with these amazing people that will work for almost nothing?
Well, both Gerard and Linda were in my writers group. They actually had found the writers group, and I came in later on. I mentioned that I was having a hard time keeping up. I said, oh, I'll look at that. I can do that. Uh, Faith also was a reader for a while, but she does her own publishing as well, mostly historical stuff. Uh, and then I met a couple people, contributors that were willing to work with it. People I've met at conventions, so on, saying, "Hey, you need any readers? I'd like to do that." And so it just grew.
It growed.
Some of them you had to like after a while say, "Okay, you can stop now." I had one. No, I had one who was doing poetry. I'm not giving any names. And I sent a friend of a friend had submitted some poems. And he's pretty mediocre. I'll give to the poetry editor, let him reject it. And he accepted it. I thought, okay, I guess I must have missed something. And then he told me later, well, I accepted it because you said it was your friend. You're not doing the job.
Actually, Diane came on while I was there, and I was so delighted. I know Diane and her husband Lee for years. I know them through the Philadelphia Science Fiction Society, and I knew Diane had been with Weird Tales for a long time, and she had not only does she have a wonderful eye for art, cover art, but she knows everyone. She can talk these artists into these beautiful works for our level of pay. And that makes her worth her weight in gold.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, she acquired just amazing artists over the years. Incredible, Yeah. Covers by Donato Giancola. Come on. Are you crazy? Yeah, it was, she was a huge find. And then some of the first readers, a lot of them actually were through the Garden State speculative fiction writers, also known as the Garden State horror writers previously. A group I was the president of at one point, but I knew them before that. So they came in, they were like, hey, we'd love to do some first reading for you. And they were all, professionals with discerning eyes. So they did a great job for me. Really great. I don't know how many are still doing it, but they were terrific.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that was a defining factor for me. I think because I knew Linda as a friend, and that was one of the first things I did is, hey, I'm thinking about taking over Space and Time from Hildy to keep it going. Would you still be there? Like, how would you feel? Because if you say, no, you're not going to be there, then I can't do this. So the team is awesome.
They are.
So, and I like how it's grown.
I could picture Linda metaphorically twisting your arms to do it. Take it over.
Yeah, I believe that kind of was the response, was like, yes! And it was like, okay, so you'll still be there. That's good. I don't know Gerard and I don't know Diane, but as long as I know one of you, and I know she will get them to stay. Like, nobody will say no to Linda, so. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, Space and Time. It's been, it keeps on going. It just isn't going to go anywhere. I think, where do you guys, because I'm kind of thinking we've done the 50 years. I mean, I don't think I'm going to be there at the 100 years, but where do you guys kind of see the magazine, but also publishing in general? Because it's changed a lot from that first, and I really wish I had it. I have the issue that you sent me, Gordon, that first issue, and it's unfortunately on display right now in a library. So I wish I had gotten it, now thinking that would have been a really good idea to show it. But it's like stapled, it was a high school mimeographed magazine that describes it.
Like some 15-year-old put it together.
Yeah. And now it's just traveled and traveled and traveled. So where do you guys see it kind of going in the future, like from here? And you guys are still a part of this. Obviously, you're here. You're not going anywhere. Space and Time has not let you go. So, don't relax too much.
You signed a contract to last beyond death.
Yes.
I'll always be willing to do any kind of promotion you need, and a little bit of this and that. If tiny things, if you can do it. I can't. Obviously, I couldn't say, okay, I'm going to read all the manuscripts from now on. But I would say, I would never want to leave it entirely. I always want to have like a finger on the pie somewhere. If you need help with something, you need to somebody publicize something, spread the word. I'm there.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, after putting in, not even a quarter of the years Gordon did, but nevertheless, I still feel it was my baby for a long time.
Oh yeah. Well, and is.
Yeah.
And I will admit, I feel like the child sometimes looking at you guys, not pairing you guys up as parents, but in a way, yes, for approval. Like, I'm going to go print on demand, I think, because otherwise we're going to fold. What do you guys think? Mom, Pop?
Smart is what I
Yeah.
guess. I just hope it's still around, honestly. I think we still hold the title of, let me see if I get all the modifiers right, the longest continuously published small press genre fiction magazine still in print.
Yep.
I think that's all of them. That's something that's pretty darn cool. And I just hope it's in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not actually physically printed at some point, just that it exists. I just hope it keeps going and changing and evolving. And Angela, you've just done amazing work. Like even in those first few issues, what you've added to this and your team, which I know is your daughter, some family members in there.
Yeah, my daughter and my husband, they can't quit.
But
Yeah.
you're lucky you have such incredibly talented people in the family. Like that's huge. They're beautiful. Like I get the issues. I'm like, wow, these look amazing. So you've definitely stepped it up. And I love seeing that, it just progresses. It gets more awesome looking. And you've been finding terrific authors.
Oh, that's not hard. You guys have already kind of laid the road. So the terrific authors just kind of funnel in.
Well, it's nice to hear that they're still doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, just, keep on keeping on because it's amazing.
Thank you. I'm actually like, Mommy said I'm doing good. My real mommy never said that. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, Mom. I'm just kidding.
So you were asking about the most amazing thing it's that this keeps going. If you had told that 15-year-old kid in high school, this thing is going to be going like 60 years later, say, what are you talking about? I'm going to break the video machine like 4 or 5 issues. The Mimeo, not the video. Oh, God, it's late.
I often think about that kid. I mean, I kind of wish I could go back in time, and maybe I did, and that's why you kept going. I don't know, but do you ever remember somebody in a weird hat coming up? No, but I do. I don't know why, but I think about like when I was 15 and 16, I would not have done this, and who the hell does this at that age, Gordon? Like, and sticks with it all this time. Like, that is incredible.
Well, mostly nerds with little friends.
The geek shall inherit.
Right. Yeah, but what Gordon did, what you did is amazing. Like this is still going. I can't even imagine. Anything I cobbled together as a young teen, not only still going, but becoming a real, viable, genuine staple of the genre. That's crazy.
I couldn't even organize my wardrobe at that time.
Right?
Well, now that I'm thinking of that, I realized the reason I kept going was because I mentioned after 4 or 5 issues, I started getting material from people I never heard of. And I just I'm going to keep going because I've got this material that I can publish and it's kind of cool. And I mean, that's what really kept it going. It was just me and my friends after 4 or 5, 6 issues was okay. That was fun. But because I was getting all over this country, all over the world, like I can't stop now. This is too interesting.
That's awesome. That's amazing. And I think like the stories that I get told, which I get to take credit for, like, I didn't do that. That was either Hildy or Gordon, but it's people love this magazine. And I think that's one reason why it has to stay going. But I don't mean like love it. Like I love reading National Geographic or I love the, New York Times. People love this magazine. It is like its own entity. It's as a creation of itself that I kind of sometimes feel like we're just like little parts of it. We are the mindless drones, and the magazine rules us, one of us. But so that is awesome. I've had a number of just really great stories come in about people talking about experiences with either of you guys, that made a huge difference in their career. And that first story is always like just, nothing beats it.
Well, it's nice to hear. It's as I said, it's a thrill when you see people who you published their first story or their early story, and they just take off. And I mean, and Gordon, we're not even mentioning some of the amazing people whose careers he launched.
Yeah,
it's too long a list.
Stories.
Yeah,
It's a whole list.
I think that's kind of what got me when I stepped in, was people, the respect that the magazine has, because I kind of thought of it like, oh, it's a genre magazine. Nobody even pays attention to us. Nobody even reads us. We don't even really exist in that. But it's actually really respected in the whole literary world, as and that's you two, because I haven't been here long enough for that. That's both of you. So I have to say thank you, so I can come along and like look important. Without all the work, without all the years that are put into this.
Well, not every magazine can say that they got a young Gene Simmons to do their illustrations.
Oh, yeah.
True.
Yeah, and so many, like I read through these things, and I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of any, but constantly my mind is blown. Like, Harry Turtledove, and I'll be like, holy crap, like just,
right?
But so many names. I mean, like almost every issue, because some of them weren't, like Gordon said, they weren't even doing anything at that time that anybody would know who they are. But now you sure as hell do,
Sure.
So.
Yeah.
Like, well, let's name, like, I know Jeff Ford, right? Jeffrey Ford.
Oh, Jeffrey Ford, yeah.
Yeah.
David C. Smith, Joseph Sherman. I'd have to pull up the whole register of issues to hit everybody. Janet Fox. I don't even know where to begin.
There's a lot.
We are almost done, but I have had a dying, burning question for years now, like since I became involved with this and found out how it began. And that is, what happened to the mimeograph machine, Gordon? Whatever happened to that?
I didn't quite hear that. What happened to
your mimeograph machine?
Oh, it was left behind in my boyhood home, and eventually, I suppose, was destroyed or recycled, more likely than that. Yeah, I mean, once I stopped using it, there was no reason to keep it around. So, and I wasn't in charge, because otherwise I would be doing my boarding thing and be piled up here along with my 17 non-working computers now. Yeah, I think it's only 4 or 5, but
well, rest in peace, mimeograph machine, wherever you are.
Yeah, you did well. Oh, well, I guess that's pretty much it. We're recording this ahead of time in the past for the future. So who knows what will be happening at that time, because things are moving a little fast, a little crazy right now. So I'm kind of grateful that we've had this moment to get together. It's been on my list to come back, because I did that like kind of crazy whirlwind tour to meet both of you back in 2019, I want to say.
Yeah, we went on Jim's show, and
getting
all the boxes out of my storage unit.
Oh my goodness, yes, and I have shuffled those damn boxes so many places in my house, and from my daughter in Virginia's house.
I got to introduce you to Faith also, who's doing the book one.
Yeah, and that's kind of been my plan since then, is I can't wait to come back. And,
we can't wait to have you.
2022.
That would be fun. We can get together in person and toast the magazine.
Exactly. And I'm not like a huge drinker, but I'm getting so drunk at Nikon next year. We have earned it, by God.
Yeah.
I've tried to get into Nikon 2 years now.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh, that never happens in Nikon. No, that's panels. What are panels? Let's go back in the yard.
That's what we're there for. We know who we are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
panels and
What we're there
pipes.
for.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the new venue too.
Yeah.
We'll finally get to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess that was going to be the switch in 2020, right? And I was all like, well, that'll be my first one. I don't know what the old venue was, but I do need a Saugi, right? Did I say that right?
Soggy.
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 Yes, you have to have a soggy. It's
Yes, I learned many things at the virtual Nikon or VCon.
And the Scotch tasting.
Yes.
What is it?
A Scotch tasting.
Scotch tasting.
Oh, Scotch tasting.
Yes.
Yes, I'm all for that. That's the part where I get really drunk.
And you'll have to try a staggering squirrel from Mr. Dansky. He will.
yeah.
Yes, that's also required.
Okay, I'm not going to keep notes, but you guys are going to have to remind me on these things. I've
We'll
heard these.
Everybody will remind you. Don't worry.
No problem. No problem.
You walk in the door, here's your goodie bag and your staggering squirrel and your Soggy.
Have a good time.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's it for us right now. I kind of don't want to say goodbye because I don't know where we're going to be in September, but I'm going to say we're going to be here rewatching ourselves and being our worst critics.
Okay.
That sounds right.
So thank you, both you guys, for everything that you've done with Space and Time, for inventing it, for keeping with it, for keeping it going. None of this would be possible without you guys. So you guys are awesome. You are the deities of space and time. I'm going to go out just a little bit of a limb and say that.
Well, thank you. I know we both are very appreciative that you've taken our baby and continuing to raise it.
Yes. It's
Keep
not
it
going
alive.
anywhere. We will keep on going no matter what changes we have to make. If 2020 didn't kill it, nothing can.
There you go.
So, well, thank you so much. I hope all of our future viewers who are now present viewers enjoyed this. And yeah, we'll enjoy the rest of Spec Fair.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.